Imagine a country where black cars were once banned, where the president ordered the construction of an entire city covered in white marble, and where in the middle of the desert there is a giant burning crater that has been on fire for more than 50 years. It sounds like something out of a movie, but it's real. That's what you're about to see now on World No Filter. Want to be part of a journey full of discoveries, fun, and surprising content? Subscribe to our channel by clicking here and don't miss any more videos. We're talking about Turkmenistan, one of the most mysterious and isolated countries on the planet. Located in the heart of Central Asia, this nation is known for its unusual rules, eccentric leaders, and a level of state control that leads many people to compare it to some of the most closed regimes in the world. But how did a country that is almost unknown to most of the world become so peculiar? In this video, you'll discover the surprising history of Turkmenistan, learn about some of its strangest laws, understand how one of the most controlling governments on the planet operates, and explore impressive places, including the famous Door to Hell, one of the most bizarre phenomena on Earth. Located in the heart of Central Asia, Turkmenistan is a country that appears on many maps but is truly known by very few people. It shares borders with countries such as Iran, Afghanistan, Uzbekistan, and Kazakhstan, and it also has access to the Caspian Sea. Even though it lies in a historically important region, hardly anyone talks about it. And the reason is simple. Turkmenistan is considered one of the most closed-off countries in the world. Tourist access is limited, the international press has very little presence, and much of the information that circulates about the country is controlled by the government itself. This creates a kind of zone of mystery on the world map. While many countries constantly appear in the news, Turkmenistan remains almost invisible, even though it is a place full of curiosities, unusual stories, and some of the most peculiar policies on the planet. Long before modern Turkmenistan existed, this region was already part of one of the most important trade routes in history, the Silk Road. For centuries, caravans loaded with silk, spices, precious stones, and other goods crossed these deserts, connecting the East and the West. Ancient cities emerged along these routes, serving as resting points for merchants, travelers, and explorers. One of the most important was Merv, which became one of the largest cities in the medieval world and a vibrant center of trade, science, and culture. Persians, Arabs, Turks, and Mongols all passed through this region, each leaving their mark on its history. This mixture of peoples and cultures helped shape the identity of the territory we now know as Turkmenistan, a place that, although isolated today, was once one of the great crossroads of the ancient world. Much of Turkmenistan's territory is dominated by a vast landscape of sand and extreme heat, the Karakum Desert, which covers about 70% of the country. For centuries, living in this environment required adaptation, resilience, and a strong sense of community. It was in this setting that the traditions of the Turkmen tribes developed, nomadic peoples who traveled across the desert with their herds and mobile camps. Life was guided by the seasons, water sources, and the natural routes of the desert. Over time, these groups built a culture marked by hospitality, survival skills, and a strong tribal identity. Elements of this heritage can still be seen today in the music, traditional clothing, and especially in the famous Turkmen carpets, considered some of the most detailed and symbolic in Central Asia. Even with the modernization of the cities, the desert remains a central element in the country's history and cultural identity. For much of the 20th century, the territory of Turkmenistan was part of the powerful Soviet Union. As a Soviet republic, the country was governed from Moscow, following the political and economic model imposed by the socialist bloc. But everything changed in 1991 when the Soviet Union collapsed. With the fall of this massive political system, several republics declared independence, and Turkmenistan was one of them. Suddenly, the country began to control its own destiny after decades under Soviet rule. This independence opened the door to a new phase in the nation's history. However, instead of following the democratic models adopted by some countries in the region, Turkmenistan took a very particular path. A new leader would emerge and, in a short time, begin transforming the country into one of the most peculiar and tightly controlled political systems in the modern world. After gaining independence in 1991, Turkmenistan quickly began to follow a political path quite different from that of many other countries. Instead of developing a more open or pluralistic system, the government increasingly concentrated power in the hands of a single leader. This process took place under the leadership of Saparmurat Niyazov, who became president and began establishing extremely tight control over the country. Gradually, the press was restricted, political parties practically disappeared, and access to information became heavily controlled. Over time, Turkmenistan came to be described by many analysts as one of the most closed regimes on the planet. The government controls much of the communication, restricts the work of foreign journalists, and maintains a highly centralized political system. This combination has created a country that remains surrounded by mystery, where many decisions and events take place far from the eyes of the rest of the world.
At the center of this transformation was a figure who would deeply shape the history of Turkmenistan, Saparmurat Niyazov. After independence, he assumed power and began governing the country in an extremely centralized way, building around himself an almost mythical image. Niyazov adopted the title Turkmenbasi, which roughly means leader of all Turkmens, and his presence began to appear in almost every aspect of public life. Giant statues were erected, his face appeared on buildings and banknotes, and even in educational programs. But what drew the world's attention the most were some of his unusual decisions. He even renamed months of the calendar after members of his family and wrote a book called Runama, which became mandatory reading in schools and institutions across the country. These measures helped create a personality cult that was rare even among authoritarian regimes.
Over time, Saparmurat Niyazov's government developed one of the most unusual personality cults in the modern world in Turkmenistan. The leader's image was everywhere. Giant statues, portraits on public buildings, and even on television channels. One of the most famous was a massive golden statue in Ashgabat that slowly rotated throughout the day so it would always face the sun. But it didn't stop there. Niyazov also created several unusual rules that drew global attention. He even banned certain television programs, limited music in public spaces, and changed the names of months in the calendar to honor members of his own family. In addition, his book, Ruhnama, became a mandatory part of education and was even included in exams for public sector jobs. All of this helped build an almost symbolic image of the leader within the country.
If there is one place that truly represents the uniqueness of Turkmenistan, it is its capital, Ashgabat. Known as the White City, Ashgabat has gained worldwide attention for its impressive number of buildings covered in white marble. The urban landscape looks like something out of a futuristic setting. Enormous avenues, gigantic monuments, administrative palaces, and government complexes built in a grand and monumental style. Many of these projects were developed during the rule of Saparmurat Niyazov, who wanted to transform the capital into a symbol of national power and identity. The result is a city that is extremely organized and visually striking, so much so that it entered the record books for having one of the largest concentrations of marble-clad buildings in the world. At the same time, visitors often notice something curious. Despite all this grandeur, many areas seem surprisingly quiet and sparsely populated, which only adds to the mysterious atmosphere of the Turkmen capital. Among all the curiosities about Turkmenistan, perhaps none attracts as much attention as some of the unusual laws and decisions that have emerged over the years. During the rule of Saparmurat Niyazov, several surprising rules were implemented, many of them difficult to imagine anywhere else in the world. For example, at one point, opera and ballet performances were banned because they were considered incompatible with national culture. In another curious decision, gold teeth were discouraged, even though they had long been part of a local tradition. Even the names of months and days of the week were changed to honor the president himself and members of his family. More recently, other measures have also drawn international attention, such as restrictions on cars of certain colors on the streets of the capital, Ashgabat. These decisions helped build the country's reputation as one of the most peculiar and unpredictable places on the global political stage. One of the reasons Turkmenistan remains one of the most mysterious countries in the world lies in its strict control over information. Internet access does exist, but it is extremely limited and closely monitored by the government. Many international websites, social media platforms, and communication services are blocked or operate under heavy restrictions. As a result, much of the population has access only to content approved by the state, while foreign journalists and international organizations face significant difficulties operating in the country. In addition, the number of tourists and visitors is relatively low, since the process of obtaining a visa can be complicated and tightly controlled. As a result, Turkmenistan remains more isolated compared to many other countries. This control over communication and the entry of foreigners helps maintain a kind of invisible barrier around the country, further increasing the mystery surrounding what really happens within its borders. For those who live in Turkmenistan, everyday life can look quite different from the extravagant image that often appears in the news. In cities like Ashgabat, daily routines blend modern elements with traditions that date back centuries. Many people work in sectors connected to the government, trade, or the energy industry, while local markets continue to be important social gathering places. There, it is possible to find fresh products, spices, and traditional handicrafts, including the famous Turkmen carpets, which are an important part of the country's cultural identity. Family also plays a central role in social life. Family gatherings, celebrations, and traditions continue to be highly valued, especially during cultural and religious holidays. Despite political restrictions and international isolation, everyday life moves at its own pace, marked by simple habits, a strong sense of community, and a culture that still carries deep nomadic roots from the past. Although it is a little-known country on the international stage, Turkmenistan possesses one of the largest energy reserves on the planet. Beneath the vast Karakum Desert lie some of the world's largest natural gas reserves. This resource has become the foundation of the national economy. A large portion of the country's revenue comes from exporting gas to international markets, especially to countries in Asia. This energy wealth allows the government to finance major infrastructure projects, monuments, and large-scale constructions that attract attention in cities like Ashgabat. At the same time, this dependence also creates challenges. When an economy is strongly tied to a single resource, the country becomes more vulnerable to changes in the global energy market. Even so, natural gas continues to be the main economic engine of Turkmenistan, an underground wealth that supports much of the country's political and strategic decisions. In the middle of the Karakum Desert, there is a place that looks like it came straight out of an apocalyptic scene. It is the famous crater known as the Door to Hell, a massive, burning pit that has been continuously on fire for more than 5 decades. The story began in the 1970s, when Soviet scientists were drilling the ground in search of natural gas. During the operation, the ground collapsed, creating a large crater that released toxic gas.
To prevent it from spreading across the region, the researchers decided to set the site on fire, believing the flames would burn out within a few days. But what was supposed to last only a short time continues to burn to this day. At night, the intense glow of the flames lights up the surrounding desert, creating an impressive and almost surreal landscape. This phenomenon has become one of the most curious attractions in Turkmenistan, further reinforcing the mysterious aura that surrounds the country.
Another aspect that draws attention in Turkmenistan is the strong level of control exercised by the government over many aspects of public life. The state has significant influence over the media, information, and even certain social activities, which contributes to keeping the country relatively isolated from the rest of the world. Most television channels, newspapers, and communication outlets operate under state supervision. This means that the information released generally follows the government's official line. At the same time, access to international platforms and the presence of foreign journalists in the country are highly limited. For many citizens, this reality creates an environment where politics and public affairs are rarely discussed openly. The result is a highly centralized system in which major decisions come directly from the authorities. This model helps explain why Turkmenistan remains one of the most closed and enigmatic countries on the international stage.
Even though it rarely appears in international headlines, Turkmenistan occupies an important strategic position in the geopolitics of Central Asia. Located between historically sensitive regions, it borders countries such as Iran and Afghanistan and lies close to major regional powers. One of the main reasons for this relevance is natural gas. Turkmenistan possesses some of the largest reserves in the world, and several countries have shown interest in its energy exports. This makes the country strategically important in pipeline projects and international energy agreements. At the same time, the government follows a foreign policy based on neutrality, avoiding formal military alliances and seeking to maintain balanced relations with various partners. This approach helps Turkmenistan preserve its political independence while continuing to play an important role in the region's complex energy and geopolitical landscape. Today, Turkmenistan remains one of the most reserved countries on the planet. Unlike many nations that seek greater international integration, the government maintains a cautious approach toward opening up to the outside world. This approach is reflected in several areas. The number of tourists visiting the country is still relatively small. The presence of foreign companies is limited compared to other economies in the region. And many political decisions continue to be made in a highly centralized manner. At the same time, Turkmenistan maintains important diplomatic and commercial relations, particularly related to the energy sector. The export of natural gas continues to be one of the main points of contact between the country and its international partners. This balance between internal isolation and selective economic cooperation makes Turkmenistan a unique country on the global stage, present on the world's political map, yet still surrounded by a strong air of mystery.
Even in a country known for its strong state control, the new generation of Turkmenistan is beginning to experience a reality somewhat different from that of previous decades. Young people who grew up in cities like Ashgabat are increasingly exposed to technology, education, and information circulating around the world. Although access to the internet and foreign content is still limited, many young people seek to learn new languages, study at universities, and follow global trends through different channels. This is creating a generation that is more connected to the changes happening beyond the country's borders. At the same time, cultural traditions and social values remain very strong within Turkmen society. For this reason, any transformation is likely to occur gradually. Even so, many analysts believe that this new generation may play an important role in the country's future, influencing possible changes in how Turkmenistan relates to the rest of the world.
After all of this,
It becomes clear that Turkmenistan is one of the most curious and enigmatic countries on the planet, a place where vast deserts hide enormous natural riches, where white marble cities rise from the sand, and where political decisions often surprise even experienced observers of global geopolitics. Throughout this video, we saw how this region was once an important stop along the ancient Silk Road, learned about the leaders who shaped the country in a unique way, and explored some of the most unusual rules and projects in the modern world. We also discovered impressive landscapes, such as the famous Door to Hell, a burning crater that has become a symbol of the mystery surrounding this nation. Perhaps it is precisely this mixture of isolation, history, and peculiarities that makes Turkmenistan so fascinating, a country rarely talked about, yet full of surprising stories. Now I want to know your opinion. Had you ever heard of Turkmenistan before this video? Would you be curious to visit such a mysterious place? Or do you prefer exploring more well-known countries around the world? Tell me in the comments what you think. It will be very interesting to read your opinion. And if you enjoyed discovering this lesser-known side of the world, make sure to leave a like on the video. It really helps the channel continue bringing curious stories about countries that almost nobody talks about. And of course, if you're not subscribed yet, take the opportunity to subscribe now and turn on the notification bell, because in the next video, we'll explore another place on the planet that will probably surprise you even more.